if I'm a romantic, right? I'm a romantic writer. Where's transcendentalism? Way over there. We're still romantic, but he's way out there. If I'm a realist writer like Mark Twain, where's the naturalist writer? Way out there. We're still realists, but he's way over here with his realism. Okay, so same idea applies. Naturalism period, 20 years, realism on steroids. Why? Well, because here's what happened. Some guy wrote a book that changed American literature. Okay, his name was Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin wrote a book called Origin. You should know this by now. Origin of the Species. Nothing? Charles Darwin? Charles Darwin did
the birds.
Yes, okay. I knew somebody had to know. You're Charles Darwin. You go to the island, you study the birds. Okay. When you come back from the island, you write this book called Origins of the Species. And here's what you write in your book. Human beings have undergone a process called evolution. If you trace us back, we trace back to the apes. Before that, we trace back to the reptiles. And before that, we trace back to the fish. This changed everything in literature. If you were an American writer, or you're an American writer, you were always taught what about the people you're living with? That were either made by nature or by God, one way or another, right? Mm-hmm. This just changed everything. You never had to look at your fellow man and think that what? That he used to be a fish. Right? Seriously, like all of a sudden, it changes what, like how you see each other. All of a sudden, it moves God out of the equation and nature. It opens up a whole new area of nature, and you realize that what? Oh my God, if this evolution thing is true, we used to be monkeys, and before that we were like reptiles, and before that we basically crawled out of the ocean, and before that we were simply but amoeba. This is the human species. This is what you were a long time ago. This changes everything. Okay, so American literature changes. Now, here's what it does, okay? From now on, these writers who call themselves naturalists, when they make characters, they're going to add things to it that come from this idea. For instance, when they make a character, they're going to add environmental factors into that character. If I'm writing a character that looks like you, I want to know how your environment shaped you. Okay, well, wait a minute. Think about it. Like, in other words, I want to know where you grew up. I want to know what your home life was like. And I want to know, like, on a daily basis, what you lived through. Secondly, I'm going to take into account psychological factors. I want to know what you think, how you think, and why you think. Okay. Thirdly, I'm going to take into account physical factors. Are you fat? Are you skinny? Are you considered good looking? Are you considered ugly? Do you have one arm? How's your hearing? Meaning, how do your physical factors affect who you are? And finally, I want to know about your grandparent. I want to know about your hereditary. I want to see your grandparents. I want to see your parents. I want to see your brothers and sisters. If Mark Twain had been a realist, all right? If Mark Twain had been a realist, then he's going to show you Huck Finn, how his environment shaped him, how that river made him who he was, how that Widow Douglas's house made him who he was. He's going to take you inside Huck's brain. And why does Huck think this way about Jim? Why does Huck think this way about Pat? He's going to take you, he's going to tell you what Huck looked like, whether he was strong, whether the other kids thought he was weak. Was he a good-looking young man? Could he handle himself in a fight? He's going to take you in Huck's hereditary. He's going to look at Huck. He's going to wonder about Huck's mother and how she affected Huck. If a naturalist did Huck, you'd not just get Huck Finn, you'd look inside Huck Finn. Okay? So, realism on steroids. Now, why am I giving this to you? College professors, this is their favorite period of literature. If you go to college, let's face it, I still think college is on the table for a lot of you. If you go to college, right, you might say to me, look, do I have to take some English classes? The answer is, you probably do, right? So you're taking some English classes. Will you have to take an English class because you tried to get into one class that's closed and all of a sudden the only class open is an American Lit class? Could that happen to you? Yeah. Yes. And if all of a sudden your scholarship depends upon you having 15 credits, yes, you're taking an 8 o'clock American Lit class. Not out of the question. Whether you want to or not, you're doing it just to keep your collegiate thing rolling. So now, college professors are not going to be doing Ann Bradstreet. College professors are not going to be doing Poe, and they're not going to be doing Finn. They think that's high school stuff. This is what college professors like. Can you see how this would be much more intellectual? So this is what you're doing. So at least I wanted to introduce it to you. Okay, and I just want to give you 3 names and 3 books that you'll probably do in college. So that's all. You'll hear these again. The first name you're going to hear, and the first class knew this guy. This guy was famous for his books that took you up into Alaska with a dog called White Fang.
Oh my God, I heard about that one.
Call of the Wild. Did you hear it? Okay, Call of the Wild, written by Jack London, is a naturalist novel. It examines the way the cold weather affects you. I mean, that's one aspect, all right? So Jack London, Call of the Wild, is a famous naturalist book. If you read that, it takes in all these accounts.
Do you think they'll do that in college?
I know they will. This is their favorite period. Okay? College professors. This is their favorite writer. Okay? I've read the guy. I don't like him. You might in college, but I'm just saying. Don't be surprised if 3 years from now, whatever, you're in an 8 o'clock American Lit class, and you spend the first 3 weeks on Henry James. So what should you know going in? Know that he's a naturalist author, and know that his characters are going to take into account these things. His most famous novel is called Daisy Miller. That's what you'll be doing.
I don't think I've heard about that.
Yeah.
But I definitely called the Wild, and I think I've heard about that.
Henry James. And his most famous novel is Daisy. And the final guy is this guy. There was a guy named Theodore Dreiser, everyone pronounce it. He's got 2 famous novels. One's called An American Tragedy, but this one's probably more famous. It's called Sister Carrie. Sister Carrie is about a young woman who, because of her crappy environment, becomes a prostitute. Because psychologically, she was never given the schooling to deal with it. She can't find her way out of prostitution. All right? Physically, she's incredibly good looking, so the men won't leave her alone, also keeping her in prostitution.
I feel like that's a movie, I think.
Oh, yeah, it is a movie. And then the last thing, her mother was also a prostitute. Do you see where this is a naturalist novel? Everything, in other words, so by the way, Sister is not a nun. Trust me, she's not a nun. It's just a name of the novel. Okay. None over there. Okay? I don't know why it's called Sister Carrie, like AIDS. All right. Now, last couple things for the period end, right? We're going to look at modern American literature. From 1910, it goes for 40 years to 1950. That's what we're looking at starting tomorrow. And just for the sake, just in case you want to know, if modern American literature only goes to 1950, what do we call the period we're living in since we're past 1950? Very creative, isn't it? I know. Go.
Do you think there'll be another period of writing?
We're in it now. We're in a post-period. In fact, right now, the writing they do today is characterized by fragmentation and disintegration. You know what I mean by that?
Nope.
Okay, if you go into a Barnes & Noble, and you look at most of the modern authors writing novels, what they write about America is it's starting to disintegrate and fragment. It's starting to move into camps. In other words, America, there's a certain group of people, they stay in that corner. There's a certain group of people, they stay in this corner. The people over here are in this corner. As a country, the characteristics are, we're starting to break down. Maybe. Now, you may think, why are they thinking that? I don't know. I mean, that's what they see. When they look outside their window, they see people moving into little tribes, people moving into little camps. Anyway, so, postmodern goes from 1950, we're still living in it, just in case you want to know. You are living in the postmodern age. I hate postmodern literature, I've read it, I hate it, I have no idea what they're talking about. I think it stinks. It's a bunch of verbal gymnastics, which means nothing to me. See, I like things that are about something. At least I gotta know what I'm reading about. And whenever I read these novels, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Okay? It's like, you ever see expressionist art? No?
Yes.
You know what I mean by that? Expressionist art is just when someone takes a bunch of paint and throws it against a canvas and calls it a horse. And you go, I don't see no freaking horse. Oh yeah, I don't know. That's postmodern literature. Right? So I'm like, all right, modern literature. What we're going to look at for the fourth quarter then. We're looking at modern literature. Start in 1910, finish in 1950. I don't care whether it's a novel, short story, poetry, etc. Okay. What is modern American literature? What we're going to read. It's affected by Great Depression. That's it. Therefore, what we read starting this week, going into June, will be what, Crane? Very dark.
Yay. Very common.
Very complex. Very hard to understand.
Violent.
And violent. Because what?
Violent, dark, and complex.
Yes. Because if you were living in 1938 and the bombs were dropping around you and you were sucking on a rock because you didn't have a job, and all of a sudden here comes Hitler putting people in ovens, you gonna write a comedy?
Yes.
No. Whatever you write will be dark and violent and hard to understand. So, that's what we're doing for the next, what'd you say, 9 weeks? 9 weeks? You feel like 9 weeks.
What's the GD?
9 weeks.
We'll get 'em.
Really short though.
That's it.